Greetings, people of Earth. My name's Jax. Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about head games. These are the games you play in your head. There are two kinds of head games. There are the good ones and the bad ones. These are basically things like, I like to call them like daydreams on steroids. And I don't know, maybe it's just me who does this. So maybe you'll just get like a psychological insight into who I am as a person. But I definitely like to think that everybody does these things. It can be as simple as imagining situations in your head, whether they are super embarrassing or they're, your ultimate fantasy, your dream job, your dream life, imagining like finding your true partner, your soulmate, and having a family and buying a house and having a very specific kind of house, and this is what you're going to do, and you're going to go on these vacations. But you can also have these head games where you're just quite negative and you're quite, self-deprecating and you're putting yourself down. Maybe these things cause you anxiety. I often play these head games in my head, like just before going to sleep. And sometimes these things put me to sleep and, I just fall asleep really quickly. And sometimes they keep me up like an insomniac. And that is rather frustrating. So I wanted to talk about these head games and basically their effect and their impact on who we are as people and our mental health and getting a good night's sleep and being realistic, but also having dreams and reaching for the stars, reaching for your ultimate goal, that kind of thing. So I think I'm going to talk about the good first and then we'll end on the bad, just because I make the video, I make the rules. Basically, good head games are things that keep you motivated, keep you reaching for your goals, put you on the right headspace. They keep you humble, they keep you out of trouble. And these can be anything from the little mindless daydreams we have, doodling in the margins at school, whatever it might be. But generally, I think these things are pretty good. They can have some negative impacts on us if we let them get out of hand. But in general, just being in your head, hopefully, is a good place to be. I think growing up, being in my own head was not very productive for myself. I think I spent a lot of time wishing that I was different, wishing that I talked a different way, wishing that I could do math, imagining situations that just weren't going to happen in my life, and shocker, they did not. But these kind of head games, the beneficial ones, the ones where we are imagining our best self, or we are embodying the thing that we want most, I think there's a lot of power in that. I'm not huge into manifesting in the social media sense of manifesting. I'm not a huge fan of the idea of, opening a door 3 times and closing your eyes and making a wish or whatever it might be. I feel like if you want to manifest something, you actually have to work at it. You can't just expect the universe to drop it into your lap and give you money or resources or a more attractive body or whatever it might be. I think a lot of the time, those kinds of manifesting and those kinds of head games that we play in our head are quite toxic and counterproductive. I think another thing that a lot of us do is when we are dating someone or we have a partner, we play these games in our head and we say like, oh, well, he's going to randomly surprise me with flowers one day, or he's going to do this, or maybe he's just going to show up at my door unannounced and whisk me off my feet. And I've definitely had similar thoughts in my head, and I've played these little games out in my head. And so much of it is unrealistic. And I know that there are people out there who will, steal the moon for you. But in general, I think the idea of having these unrealistic relationship expectations hurts your actual relationships a lot more than it helps them. I can remember romanticizing my partners and that being very difficult and sometimes even destroying a relationship entirely. So head games, you have to be careful with, because even the good ones can really affect you poorly. Now, on to the negative, the bad head games. These are the things where you're lying in bed, you're trying to go to sleep, and you start having like an anxiety attack. You start playing these situations out in your head. Maybe you have to go to a meeting tomorrow and you say like, well, what if I really screw it up? What if I really mess it up? That's not necessarily very productive. It can have good impacts. Like it can force you to really think about what you want to say in the meeting, how you want to go about it. That anxiety can work as like a guardrail to prevent you from the worst case scenario. But I think on the whole of it, these negative thoughts that we have in our heads, the ones that put us down, that call us fat, ugly, stupid, these things generally just create a vicious cycle in our heads, and they lower our confidence. And I think confidence is a huge and important factor in life in general. It's certainly an important factor in dating. It's an important factor in interacting with other people, in feeling like you have the ability to do the things that you want to do and reach your goals. So these negative mind games that really screw us up can absolutely cripple the way that we want to be and who we want to be as people. So my advice is, it is extremely hard to start flipping the narrative, but the next time you catch yourself in one of these negative head games where you're thinking like, oh, like I'm not good enough, and I'll never get this thing, is just put another voice in your head. And this is what I did, and I hope it helps, but I started to just imagine a voice in my head, and it was this deep, confident voice, and it would always hype me up. It would always, this voice, and it still does, like this voice would just say like, you are good enough, you can do this. Why, it's got to be somebody, why not you? Somebody has to reach this milestone or this goal. Make it you. Work harder, sleep better, eat healthier, work out. And I can distinctly remember like this negative voice was always this kind of passive, very exhausted voice that just said like, you can't do this. Like, why are you even trying? You're never going to be good enough. And so having this like deeper, more confident voice that I would just imagine in my head, I would just put this confident mind game inside my head that said, well, why can't you do this? Why can't you achieve the goals you want? And I think that's one of the best counters to this negative think. Another big factor is actually talking to people, talking to the support people in your life and being like, hey, do you think I can do this? And if these people are really in your corner, they'll give you genuine advice, but at the end of the day, that advice will also be supportive and constructive. It's hopefully not somebody nagging you, telling you, no, you won't be able to do this. But getting out of your head is just as important as making the head game inside of you positive. So too, you must get out of your head, connect with nature, do something you love. When you know that you're going to have a bad day, try your best to make it better. Try your best to avoid the situations are not going to go well. Reschedule if you can. Communicate honestly with the people who are expecting you to show up for this day, and limit the expectations of these people and say, you know what, like this is a really hard day for me. I'm sorry, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Don't expect much. And again, the truly supportive people in your life will understand that, and they'll be like, yeah, that's no problem. I get it. We all have days like that. We all have these voices in our head that tell us we're not good enough. And by trying to rig the game a little bit inside your own head and be more positive, be more courageous and outspoken and honest with yourself and with everyone outside your head, it does get better. Because I genuinely was in a place not too many years ago where every thought I had was so negative and it was so toxic, and I get it. So I hope that helps, a little exploration into the voices in our head and the thoughts that we think. I know that many people think in pictures, some people think in words. I do not think in words. I very much think in just images and videos and pictures in my head. So that's how I do it. Everyone's a bit different, and I hope that when you spend time up here in your head, that you are hyping yourself up and you're being positive and supportive to what you're trying to achieve outside your head. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know advice you have. What would you tell your younger self? I think a lot of older people find that they were very harsh on themselves, and looking back at who they were as a younger person, they always have a lot of sympathy. You know, when I talk to my grandparents and we're looking at photos of them in their 20s, they always comment like, oh, back then, like I used to hate my body. I used to hate, everything. I didn't know what I was doing in life. And I would love to go back in time and just shake them and say, you're doing so good. You look amazing. You're doing well. Like, just be confident, be a little more happy, be a little more positive. And I've heard that from a lot of older people. So let me know if that's your experience or if someone in your life has told you something similar. And as always, I hope you're having a beautiful day, week, month, year, century, era, epoch, millennium, whatever you're having. I hope it's amazing. And as always, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.